I do understand that someone doing that as a live stream on your app is not something you would typically be prepared to handle. But you would think at the very least they would call the police, right? Hi, and welcome back to me talking about whatever I want. Today I want to talk about TikTok, but not the app itself. Today I'm talking about the company because I recently found out that they did something a year ago that nobody found out about until about a week ago. TikTok doesn't want us to know what's in this video, but I have pictures, I have articles, I have everything. First, of course, I'd like to do my comment shout out from my last video, as always. This comment goes to Jillian Hernandez, who says, Day 8 of telling everyone D'Angelo hid this account from us for over half a year. Now, I did make this account over half a year ago, but it was kind of for some other stuff I had planned. But me switching to daily uploads, that was the best decision I ever made. You may have noticed I took 2 days off. Y'all, I was literally just trying to process. I think I'm gonna pass 100,000 subscribers like this month, and 3 weeks ago I had 20,000. So, but I actually brought this comment up for 2 reasons. One, to thank you all for this unexpected success, but also because it perfectly fits the theme of today's video. Yes, I did hide this account for half a year, but today we're going to talk about what TikTok hid from us for over a year. It seems like I bring up TikTok every single week, and each time it's worse than it was before, right? Like I bring them up 1 week and it's about their terrible censorship. I bring them up another week and it's about how they fail to crack down on dangerous challenges. Well, I'm bringing them up this week because they have reached rock bottom. So I just want to give a quick trigger warning. This story centers around an individual who took his own life. That's going to repeatedly come up as I go throughout the video. However, there's no images or pictures of that, so don't worry. So it all started in February when this 19-year-old kid from southern Brazil, he told his TikTok followers that he was going to be planning a special performance the next day. And if you don't know, you can actually live stream on TikTok, you know, the same way you can on Instagram. It's sort of similar to that. Well, it turns out his special performance was him turning on the camera, pointing it towards himself, and then taking his own life on camera. 280 people watched that, and what was a horrifying end for this 19-year-old was, of course, the beginning of a host of problems for TikTok, the company, because they handled this wrong at every single opportunity. And to be fair, I do understand that someone doing that as a live stream on your app is not something you would typically be prepared to handle, but you would think at the very least they would call the police, right? So big mistake number 1 was that this live stream remained going for an hour and a half. So for just 90 minutes, you could go to his profile and it was just live footage of his body, just right there on TikTok. No gate, no nothing. And so obviously I would assume a lot of those 280 people watching it reported it. So again, I can't really blame them for the incident happening because they had no way of knowing, but the fact that it stayed there for so long is just such a massive failure on their moderation team. So they find out about an hour later and they don't call the police. That's right, TikTok finds a live stream of somebody's body on their app and they do not alert local authorities. Instead, their priority was to stop it from going viral. So the very first people they called once they encountered this footage were their PR team, not the police. So I got this from an article. This is an internal document from ByteDance, which is of course TikTok's parent company, and this is from their Brazilian office. So you can see at 3:21, this individual began his live stream, and by 3:23, he had already done the deed. So it looks like it didn't cross anybody's attention until 4:07 p.m., which was 40 minutes later. And it just says banned 10 minutes, user not moving. So what I can just assume this means was that so many people had flagged it that it auto banned him for 10 minutes, which does make sense. Also, something I find really disgusting is that under 323, when it says he did the deed, it says not proven. What do you mean not proven? It's like at every angle, even in their internal documents, they are trying to minimize the effect of what really happened here. So as you can see at 4:38, top creators send screenshot in WhatsApp group. In other words, their moderation team failed so hard that they never realized what happened. A TikTok influencer had to send a group chat to actual TikTok employees, and then that's when they realized, oh hey, someone is currently broadcasting this on our app. I can't understand how a moderation team could fail that spectacularly to where Someone who's not even working for you has to bring something that huge to your attention when it was getting auto flagged already. It just sounds like they weren't checking it. At 5 p.m., it seems like the community manager saw the message. 6 minutes later, they notified the CCM team. And I'm guessing CCM is like community management. In other words, they told their people, oh, hey, we have this going on. It says they asked for assistance gathering data from the live streaming. And then 2 minutes later, they requested to ban him. And then 5 minutes later, he was banned. So notice this, while obviously this should not be on their platform and they should remove it immediately upon hearing it, they did this before alerting the authorities. So ByteDance literally deleted the evidence. And at this point, if they had chosen not to tell anybody, nobody would have known except those 200 people who saw that live chat. I cannot believe they would see something like this and then just remove it and not immediately say something. So after they let their community management team know, and after they banned the user less than 10 minutes later, they notified their PR team. And here's the super weird part. There's like a 30-minute gap, a 40-minute gap actually, between them notifying their PR team and then notifying their US PR team. And then that conversation went on for an additional 40 minutes. So for almost an hour and a half, they were just having a conversation about it. Nobody knew that this had happened. The police didn't know. This individual's family didn't know. And then you can see at 6:40 p.m. they alerted ERT. And I could be wrong, but I think this was them finally alerting medical professionals that this had happened. And then as you can see, a whopping 1 hour and 20 minutes after that, they finally passed the information to local law enforcement. So for a good 3 hours there, everyone at TikTok, the company, knew that this had happened, but nobody informed the police, and instead they just deleted the evidence. And all the while, that individual was just there. Now you may be asking yourself, well, what happened during those really long phone calls between the PR team? Like, what could they possibly have been talking about? Unfortunately, we know, because as you saw from the title, and as I said in the beginning, this happened in February of 2019. A year ago, and for about 365 days, nobody knew that this had happened except TikTok, that guy's family, and the couple hundred people who had been to watch that live stream. And the reason that that happened in such a internet-driven world where some things happen and then they wind up trending on Twitter within 30 seconds, the reason they were able to do that is because TikTok's priority was keeping the story out of the news. And they did manage to do that for a year, but looks like their time's running out. So the way we even know this now is because a former employee came forward with those documents. And that's why the story just broke a few days ago. So the way I discovered it was via this Insider article right here. And I realized that this Insider article was based off of this Intercept article from February 5th of this year, just a few days ago. And this article says this was the first time that the story had ever been written anywhere on the internet, or at all. Though TikTok's Brazilian office did not respond to a list of 10 specific questions sent by The Intercept, the company did offer a short statement acknowledging that around a year ago, it had removed content related to that from its network and alerted local authorities. That's such a technically true way of putting it. Yes, they did remove content related to that about a year ago, and yes, they did alert local authorities. But there's a several hour gap between that. So it gets worse. During that time that, you know, they were having these phone conversations and not letting the police or this person's family know what had happened, they actually made themselves a PR statement. This is their press release for media. We are extremely saddened by this tragedy. At TikTok, it is our top priority to create a safe and positive in-app environment, and we have developed guidelines to foster a positive environment for everyone in this community. Moreover, we have robust measures to protect users against misuse, including easy reporting mechanisms that enable users to report content that violates our terms of use and community guidelines. We encourage any users who need any support or those who are concerned about a friend to contact a prevention hotline. Yeah, okay, those robust measures and easy reporting mechanisms are clearly useless. Also, I find it odd that in a statement about something so serious and so sad, they just immediately go to, oh no guys, our reports work, haha. No, they absolutely did not. Otherwise, that would not have been on your platform for an hour and a half. But here's the thing about this PR statement. they never delivered it. They never sent it out. They never gave it to anybody. And that's because it didn't hit the news. So TikTok just figured, well, guess we don't have to say anything about it. This whole thing I read you was just in case somebody finds out about it. See, their goal wasn't really to make a statement or express how sad they were over that incident or any of that. Their goal was to stop the coverage at all costs. So for 48 hours, they monitored the internet, all social media platforms, especially Twitter, and they just looked to see, like, is this going to start trending? Are people going to start talking about this? And after 48 hours, nothing had happened, and they came to the conclusion that they were safe. They didn't have to put out a statement. Nobody would ever know of the way they handled this disgusting situation. And they could just move on with their lives and go back to the other things that they do, like collecting your kids' data and all that other stuff. Well, nothing may have happened in 48 hours, but I sure as I contend for everybody to know this now. A year later, the same company is bigger than ever. I think it's one of the biggest apps in the world, if not the biggest app. And this is how they handle the things that happen on their platform. And what's really disturbing to me is that if something that serious and that newsworthy and that egregious could happen, and we could just not know this for a year, I want to know what else happened. What else happened in that year? What else happened last week? What's happening right now on TikTok that we don't know because they are so good at covering things up that we'll never know unless somebody leaves the company and then informs us. And here's the thing, TikTok's probably refusing to say anything about it right now because it's still not spreading that far. Like, there's obviously the original Intercept article, and then of course there was the Business Insider article, which is how I found it. And now I see people reporting it at Futurism, Screen Rant, Dazed, The Daily Dot. But that's the thing, these are not huge publications. It's not really mainstream media. Like, it's big, but for some reason bigger companies are just leaving this one alone. And it really makes me wonder, when the mainstream media capitalizes so much on these sort of situations, why did they not immediately jump on this? How come when TikTok themselves confirmed that this happened, this still didn't wind up on CNN, NBC, etc.? This is pure speculation, but it really makes me wonder, is TikTok conversing with these people? Did they pay to keep it out of the news? Like, seriously, just explain to me in a way that makes sense how this is not the biggest story in the world right now when it's been confirmed and smaller publications are covering it and we have the internal documents. It's a horrifying conclusion that I can come to, but my only guess is that TikTok is somehow preventing these bigger people from talking about it. And of course, the only way that would make sense to do that is money. And of course, that wouldn't be hard when you're the biggest app in the world. So basically, just tweet about this, tell people, make a post about it, just make people aware. Make it to where there's no way these bigger companies can ignore it unless they're just admitting by omission that they've been paid off by TikTok. We cannot let companies get away with this sort of thing because it's not as simple as, ooh, people are doing dumb challenges, or ooh, people are doing like dumb dances. It's not even as simple as, oh, someone's account was hacked. That's a little iffy. They mishandled a matter of life and death, and they prioritized their company's image over someone else's life. And they deleted evidence before they handed it over to local law enforcement. It's like, it's beyond rock bottom. Like, I expect the worst from TikTok and ByteDance at all times. I do. But how could I have expected this? In conclusion, I'm sorry to that person's family. Well, of course, it has been a year. I'm glad that he's remained anonymous and, you know, they're not being blasted everywhere. But I'm not sorry for TikTok and the massive amount of trouble you're going to get into if even a small portion of people find this video right here. So congratulations, ByteDance. You tried to keep that under wraps, but I don't know why you thought that would work, even if it did work for a year. It's the internet. You can't hide anything. So ultimately, who cares?